More Oscar nominations than any other actor and 3 wins. An acclaimed career spanning 6 decades. And a reputation for excellence that continues to grow even after all these years. Peers have called her the greatest of her generation, possibly ever. And also one of the nicest to work with.
At first I was a little nervous, I didn't know what she'd be like, but lucky for me, she was open and willing to learn.
But as Meryl Streep's appearances on the BBC have demonstrated over the years, she's one of the least starry of cinema's superstars. There's a disarming openness and honesty to her that you don't always encounter in those of her status.
My first film was Julia. Right after that, there was a television series called The Holocaust, which was very serious, and then The Deer Hunter, which could not have been more humorless, at least in terms of my character.
Yeah.
And how you first present to the audience at large is what you're going to have to deal with for the rest of your life.
Here, we're looking back on that life and the journey that's taken her from those early acclaimed performances in films like The Deer Hunter, Kramer vs. Kramer, and Sophie's Choice, right up to modern successes like The Devil Wears Prada, The Iron Lady, and of course, Mamma Mia.
Super Trooper, lights are gonna find me, but I won't feel blue, like I always do, 'cause somewhere in the crowd there's you.
And we start with one of Meryl's first BBC appearances, from the days when she was being described as an exciting new talent.
I didn't always want to be an actress. It was something that sort of came to me late. I was in a few plays in college, and my friends came and sat in the front row and laughed and scratched and said it was great. So I got excited by it and went into it really when I was 22, 23. Started very late, went to drama school for 3 years and sort of got more serious as I went along. But I had a series of very fortunate breaks that led to this program.
From theatre thing to theatre thing, and then into
Yes.
into the movies. The other side of having this enormous success is the movies is not so much the headlines, but simply the pressure of offers. Now, for example, you were offered, I gather, the part in the sequel to Love Story. Is it harder to turn down the inappropriate offers than it is to shrug off the headlines?
No, it's not hard to turn down dreadful material because you just know that everybody you know is going to go to the movies and see you.
But did you go through a process?
Terrible stuff.
Did you go through a process of your agent saying, "Now look, this is really worth so many thousands of dollars. You really should do it"? Or did you have?
Yes, you can't imagine how much money they offer you to do terrible things, but they have to, don't they?
Did you meet the producers who tried to persuade you that it was the most wonderful role ever offered?
Oh, no, I never even got to the point of meeting the producers because you just open the first page and see that it's not that great, and it's not going to inspire you to do your best work. And I like to have fun doing what I'm doing, and if I'm not inspired by it, or if the juices aren't set flowing by a certain scene or something in the project that appeals to you, it's really very hard to work.
You have been quoted as saying you didn't perhaps really like films because you're wheeled on like a vehicle. In Kramer and Kramer, you took to rewriting your own big speeches. Did that make both you and the writer feel better?
Well, the writer was the director in this case, and he said to me that he was unhappy with a certain segment of a courtroom scene that ends the movie. Or doesn't really end it, but it's sort of a high point.
You're playing a wife who is
yes, I'm
fighting
playing
for custody.
yes, in a custody battle after
with
a divorce.
Your ex-husband.
A little boy is involved, He wasn't really happy with the segment that he'd written for my character, and he said, go home and see what you can do. And I was flying off to Indianapolis to visit my in-laws, and on the plane, I just sort of got some ideas, and I thought, oh God, they'll never use this, and brought it in when I got home, and he used it, all of it, the whole scene, and I was really sort of proud of myself.
Were you a failure at the one most important relationship in your life? Were you?
Is that a yes, Mrs. Kramer?
No further questions.
The 1980s started with Meryl winning the lead role on one of the most anticipated British films of the period, an adaptation of the great John Fowles novel, The French Lieutenant's Woman. A huge bestseller, it had taken years to reach the big screen, raising expectations and pressure on the cast and crew. And casting an American hadn't been uncontroversial, which made this an early example of Meryl's reputation for impeccable accents coming to the fore.
What in heaven's name do you want of me?
I must tell you what really happened to me 18 months ago. I beg of you, you are my only hope. I shall be on the Undercliff tomorrow afternoon and the next afternoon. I shall wait for you.
I must go.
I shall wait.
What about the language? Because your accent there, your English accent, is absolutely perfect.
Oh,
do you have any problems with it?
Yeah, when I first came here, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I had a great teacher,
Did you?
Barbara Markham, who I guess works with the Lyric Theatre a lot. She really got on me, because all Americans think they can do British accents, just like all the British that come over think they can do American accents, and we all hold our noses. But it's really, the inflection is easy to catch. The specific sounds are very, very difficult, because some things are just ingrained. I think it's easier to learn and reproduce a different language than to do one that's slightly like your own.
What problems did you have, though? Any particular sort of words or vowel sounds that you had a problem with?
Yeah, I had some problems with vowel sounds. Yeah, a lot. We always say lot and cot and not. But a psychological problem I had with the way that you say A's, because in my country it's sort of there's a little, there isn't really the same kind of class system that there is here, but there's an upper crust who affects a British accent, and they always say things like class and most, past. And nobody else in America talks like that. So when I came to those words, I would just clench my teeth and say, mast. Just because psychologically it sounded like I was being hoity-toity, to me.
Yes.
But obviously, it's just the way a word sounds.
The French Lieutenant's Woman was another critical and commercial success, and by now you'd have thought that Meryl would be the automatic casting choice for any credible female role in a film. But in the case of Sophie's Choice, that wasn't automatically so.
I understand, reading, I think, interviews with the director, Alan Pakula, that you were first choice for Sophie and you weren't first choice, as it were, for Sophie. How did that come about? Because it was here in England that he first said, do the movie, didn't he? Or he rang you here in England.
Yes, I was making the French lieutenant.
Oh, let's call her Lieutenant.
Okay. And he called me up and said, have you read this book, Sophie's Choice? I said, oh, yeah. Because I had read it years ago. And he said, well, I'm prepared to offer you the lead role in the film version of Sophie's Choice. I said, are you kidding? He said, no. I said, oh my God, well, I have to read it again. I said, well, no, I don't want to read it again. Just give me the script. He said, well, I can't show you the script. I said, what do you mean you can't show me the script? He said, well, I just can't show it to anyone yet, I said, what are you talking about? You want me to play this big part and I can't read it? Anyway, he drove me crazy, I drove him crazy, and we parted company. He went off, and about a year later I got hold of a script through these various secretaries who weren't supposed to give copies away, you know. And
even major stars do that, do they?
Oh, very sneaky. And I read it and I thought, well, you just sent your career down the tubes, you know, it's the best part I'd read in years. And also a wonderful screenplay, and I was very anxious to do it, so I called him up and I said, you know, would you see me again? He said, well, I found someone else, I wouldn't mind talking to you. And I went, and in this office he had obviously 4 walls, each of which was covered with the photograph of a young Czech actress, beautiful girl. And my heart just went down in my feet, and I thought, well, that's it. But then I thought, well, she's too young to play it. And too beautiful. So thus began my campaign to change his mind. And I sat, and he was very nice. He met me for an hour and a half, and I got one thing out of him. He said he'd see me again that week. And I went back, and we talked for about 3 hours. And then he said, go away, go away, go away. You've just confused me terribly. And I sort of, you know, sat like this with my hand on the telephone for 2 weeks, and he called me and said, you can do it.
But, you know,
It's a very long story, but that's the truth.
It's an interesting story, mainly because nobody is more in demand in the dramatic cinema, at least, than you. And it's almost not an act of self-abasement, but it's strange that you should have to plead, or that you should want to plead more to the point. Why was Sophie's Choice so important?
It's the best part. I mean, if you've seen the movies lately, for women, it's the best part. I mean, it was, just far and away. It's not like there are 25 magnificent roles every year for women. And then you pick and you think, well, this one has vulnerability, and this one's funny, and this one's tragic, and which one do I want? There's one, usually, maybe 2 great parts.
As things turned out, Sophie's Choice did lead to Meryl's second Oscar win, her performance described as a new professional high. And this in turn led to more acclaim and more accents, most notably in one of the biggest hits of the 1980s, Out of Africa. Without question, Meryl had become by now one of Hollywood's most important figures. Her presence on a project, a virtual guarantee of quality. But however good someone is, everyone's got their critics, and she was no exception.
Tell me something that over the last 10 years, you know, whether you will admit to it or not, you know, I think most people would agree that you have been the predominant actress in the movies. I mean, God, you've had 9 Oscar nominations, 2 Oscars, God knows how many other awards. And yet you've also come in for some of the most vitriolic criticism, haven't you? Why do you suppose that is? I mean, when people blast off at you, they seem to blast off much harder and with more malice. Pauline Kael, for instance, called you an android, I believe. I mean, this must hurt. It must hurt.
It hurts my feelings very deeply. Hurts more as time goes on and my children become literate and are able to read things. Or they watch things on the television, a reviewer going, you know, like this. And they say, why is he so mean to you? But really...
Why do you think they are? I mean, it's not many people.
Well, it's sort of a religion in America to set people up and then tear them down. I mean, we do it regularly. If I felt that people that watched my films felt the way that she does, for instance, you know, I would open my wrists, but people don't feel that way. And I get mail that talks very open-heartedly. People go to a movie and are more open to the experience. I think critics have to, by nature of the job, watch everything that comes out in a season. It's a glut. You're always seen in the context of what else has come before. And people go to the movies to watch stories and are very often carried away by them.
And the story Meryl was promoting at the time was quite the departure. Not one of the parts that is regularly held up as one of her finest, but in Death Becomes Her, we certainly saw a very different side of her.
Yes! No! Oh, damn! This is pointless. Wait a minute. This is ridiculous. We can't even hurt each other. We can't even inflict pain. Pain? I'll tell you about pain. Bobby O'Brien, Scott Hunter, Ernest Menville. That's pain. I loved every one of them, and they loved me. I will not speak to you till you put your head on straight.
You keep wanting to do comedy. Or, well, you appear to keep wanting to do comedy. Why? I mean, it's like the clown and Hamlet in reverse, isn't it?
Well, I think I'm funny, you see. It's my misapprehension about the whole thing. So perhaps, I don't know, I think you have to have food and you have to have wine. You have to have both.
And after looking at the menu and making her choices, just how does Meryl bring a role to life? Technique is something she's happy to discuss in quite some detail, and in a way that other actors sometimes aren't.
To me, when I read something, I get a visual image of the person, and I sort of can't shake it. You know, it's like I've already met that person. I can't. And so there's a great moment with certain costume designers and my longtime colleague, who is Roy Helland, who's a makeup artist and hairdresser, where a few weeks or months before we begin shooting, we stand in the dressing room and try to put together this person that I already have in my mind, and it's that's sort of one of the most exciting moments in the whole process.
Kind of like just dressing up, I
seeing
suppose.
it's dress up. It's like a little child, yeah.
Does it get easier? I mean, is acting easier now that you know people know you can do it? I mean, when you're turning up, no one's thinking maybe I've hired the wrong person here. You know, they've got Meryl Streep. They can't believe their luck, basically.
No. Spike Jonze kept saying to me, "I know I'm going to be the guy who makes Meryl Streep look bad," you know, and that was his worry. Everybody comes so loaded with their own, thing. But I do feel more at ease once I'm in skiing down the hill. But riding up to the top of the mountain to begin is increasingly terrifying, and I don't know why. And then when I get there, I'm so happy. I love working, but my God, getting to the start date is tough.
And is that why, just because of the fear of performing, of starting from scratch again?
I think because it's so, I've been so overpraised and all those things. That feeds in, and it's a lot to contend with, even if I don't obviously believe it. But it is sort of that's part of the landscape, but part of it is just, I've done a lot of people. I've made a lot of women come to life.
Expensive clothes are a waste of money, is something Meryl once said when asked about fashion. It's a sentiment she had to bury for her portrayal of the character Miranda Priestley in The Devil Wears Prada. Miranda was a character who struck fear into those trying to work with her, something that Meryl's had to factor into her own working life, but she, obviously, has been much, much nicer about it.
Emily Blunt said about you that when people meet you, indeed people who work with you, they have to get over, I think this is her phrase, get over being intimidated by Meryl Streep.
I can feel that, with younger actors sometimes. But I always screw up inevitably in the first week, badly.
Meaning what?
Then I forget my lines all the time. Or I just come in a little too early or late, or, just make mistakes, and then everybody kind of relaxes a little bit. But
You can imagine, young. I don't know whether there was a situation yourself when you were first in the films and there was a film star you were working alongside for the first time.
Oh yes.
And you had a moment where
No,
why am I here?
I wasn't working with one of them, but I long time ago made dinner for, when I was a young actress. My boyfriend's best friend was Al Pacino, and he was at that time just in the Godfather movies. And we would walk along the street in Lower Manhattan in Little Italy, and we never had to pay for a meal, ever, 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 ever. So, because they'd treat Al, you know. But he came over to our house and I cooked dinner, and I remember my hands were shaking as I made the pasta sauce. You know, I was just so nervous, and my upper lip was twitching like this. But I don't think that in a way, I don't think people are that intimidated really anymore because of the ubiquity of fame and and reality television, and how inundated we are with famous people endlessly.
That's
you know,
interesting.
pushed at you. So I don't think people are. I think people are more familiar and less scared.
At the time, The Devil Wears Prada was said to have spent more on costumes than any film before it. Perhaps that's one reason why Meryl helped keep the costs down on her next big hit, by reusing Miranda Priestley's sunglasses. Those dungarees probably didn't break the bank either. And a relatively low budget meant Mamma Mia also had to be filmed unusually quickly.
You're a teaser, you turn 'em on. Leave 'em burning and then you're gone. Looking out for another.
Part of that breathless quality is because they gave us no money to make it, because it was a girls' film. You know, our budget would have fit in here. If this is the room of the Spider-Man budget or the Batman budget or the Hulk or any other, the man budgets, that's what this would have been. You know, that's where Mamma Mia sat. So we had to go fast. We had to get it fast.
You are the dancing queen, young and sweet, only 17.
Why did you want to do it? What was it about Mamma Mia that you wanted to be involved?
Oh, I loved the musical. I did see the musical.
So you saw it in New York?
I saw it right after it first opened. It opened in October of 2001, and we had moved to the city on September 9th of 2001. And, you know, 2 days later, the World Trade Center was attacked, and it was very, you know, everybody was really disturbed. My 10-year-old was in a school, and 7 of the parents were lost in the thing. And so all the kids were kind of dimmed. And it was her birthday, and I thought, what am I going to do with these kids? And I read the New York Times that said, new British musical, buoyant fun. And so I took a big gang of kids there, and they just, at the end of it, they came out dancing. They were so happy, but not just the kids. I mean, everybody there was really just elated by this music. And I thought, man, this is a real power this thing has. You know, there are very few things that really, really make you feel good when you come out of it.
And I guess the kids weren't even that familiar with the music. It's like we go in knowing ABBA's songs.
Oh yeah, they knew nothing, and then we had to go buy all the albums, and then we heard the songs over and over and over.
Mamma Mia. So the scene we saw, that was in Greece. That was actually shot in Greece. That's
Yeah. That was up in the northern Aegean.
Okay. Yeah. Now, how did you feel? I think I might say almost all the film. Not quite. There's a couple of things, but almost all the film. You are wearing the dungarees.
Yeah, you don't like those?
Well, no, I don't have a problem with them. I personally don't like to wear them because for a man, if you have the straps done up incorrectly, it can be a little bit unaccommodating. But that's
you have to make a decision.
You do, which Republican or Democrat, as you say. But how much of your year did you spend in the dungarees then filming that? It's quite a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that. Well, are you on strings there, or are you actually just jumping that high?
My own string. I didn't think about it before I did that.
Wow.
I should have, because I felt it the next day.
With Mamma Mia and its sequel, it felt as though audiences were seeing a completely new Meryl. The name of the game was definitely fun. We'd never witnessed her having this much ever before. But when all is said and done, Meryl craves big, challenging roles, and so the blue dungarees of Donna was soon swapped for the blue power suit of Margaret Thatcher in 2011's The Iron Lady.
Where there is discord, may we bring harmony. Shoulders back, tummies in. Yes, the medicine is harsh, but the patient requires it. Cowardice. Cowardice.
I remember in '79 when she was elected that we were all sort of secretly thrilled that there was now a female head of state in Britain. And we thought if it could happen there, in America, it's seconds away.
Yeah.
And of course,
you were wrong.
Wrong again.
And when you start to think your way into a character like this, not that there are many, but how do you start? You start with the voice or and the way of speaking?
I started reading, reading, and trying to learn more about a person that had been sort of caricature only in our press and in my own mind, and easily emblematic of a certain type of person.
What do you say to people who say it's all very well doing a film about the Shakespearean Margaret Thatcher, the woman who rises and then falls, and people have talked about it as a female Lear, but it's not all right to leave out so much of the politics?
There have been other things, documentaries made, sort of analysing the downfall and those years. For people who want that, there's material out there to look at. But our interest was to look back through her own eyes, looking at the glory days and looking at anything that she might have regretted. She might not regret the same things that history does, or people on the left or people on the right.
I didn't know that you were dropping by today, dear.
As you said yesterday, we were going to start on Dad's things. The cupboards, and then I was going to help you dress. Got Michael and
Jacqueline
coming for dinner tonight.
Yes, of course. We're having halibut.
It's an attempt. Yeah. It's an attempt, to look at her as a human being at the end of her life and to imagine what it felt like to be her. I mean, I don't think that that's an unreasonable act of imagination.
Douglas Hurd, one of our cabinet ministers, said it was a ghoulish spectacle to have so much of somebody suffering from dementia when we don't quite know what she's really like now. She hasn't spoken for 10 years now. And there's always the possibility that she will see this film herself. Did that give you pause?
It made me feel more responsible, but I feel responsible whenever I've played anyone, even fictional or real. You just try to get as close to the truth as you can.
Capturing the truth is what Meryl Streep has been doing from the very beginning. It's helped her create the huge range of characters we've seen here and many, many more. It's what's made her one of the all-time greats, and it's why she remains at the very top of her profession after all these years. To the surprise of no one, that hugely praised portrayal of Margaret Thatcher earned her a third Oscar. The Iron Lady and the First Lady of Hollywood too. It's a position she's held for a long time, and there's no sign of that changing anytime soon.